raised in Haesan City in the northern part of North Korea. And then I graduated from university in Cheongjin City, also still northern part of North Korea. So my major was railway operation. After that, I spent a decade in North Korean military until 2010. Actually, in North Korea, we have to spend 10 years military service for every young man. This is mandatory. Actually, at that time, I was thankful because I did not have to spend 13 years. Because before I went to military service, my North Korean military service 13 years. But at that time it's 10 years. That's why I'm thankful. After finish the military service, I have a family issue, which is a serious issue. That means that I have to escape from North Korea. So in 2010, I escaped from North Korea to arrive here in South Korea. And then in 2012, I moved to Canada and lived in Toronto for 3 years. In 2015, I joined the TNKR. Nowadays, I'm a special ambassador of TNKR and also board member. He says sometimes, always, I might fire because I'm board member. So today I would like to tell you about my military service. Is that okay? It doesn't need any translator, right?
Oh no, not for speech.
Oh, not for speech, right? Okay. I was in the North Korea Army for 10 years, and I was a construction worker for 10 years. That sounds like 20 years, but actually it was 10 years. How is that possible? Anyone could guess? Could guess? No what? Oh yeah.
Your military job was a construction worker?
Yes, exactly. You might be genius. Okay, yes. Exactly. My military job is construction worker. North Korean government uses soldiers as a slave labor to build apartment, military tunnel, and even civilians facility, which civilians cannot build on their own. My 10 years military service was spent building apartment. It was 10 years, but it felt like 20 years. Today I'm going to tell you about my military service as a North Korean construction worker. After I graduated from university when I was 21, I entered the army. I entered the army. My army construction brigade was sent to Pyongyang. The first time I saw my fellow soldiers, they looked like slaves instead of soldiers. Their clothes were old, dirty, and tattered. They did not look like soldiers. We had to wear construction uniforms instead of regular army uniforms. Actually, we are in fact construction workers. The only difference was we were also soldiers. I want to tell you about something unusual that happened during my military service. In 2008, Kim Jong-il ordered our brigade to dismantle 3 large bridges near Sunan Airport in Pyongyang. It might sound strange for soldiers to be ordered to dismantle bridges. We are ordered to dismantle concrete beams and collect irons in order to build new apartments. The bridges were built to reduce the traffic jam for foreigners who participated in the 13th World Youth Student Festival in 1989. But after that event, due to the death of Kim Il-sung and the collapsing economy of North Korea, foreigners stopped coming to North Korea through Sunan Airport. As a result, Kim Jong-il was angry and ordered us to dismantle the bridges due to the shortage of building materials. We moved there and began breaking up the bridges. We broke up 90% of the bridges using only sledgehammers. We only used dynamite to drop the huge beams and columns. And we didn't even receive any training. The biggest hardship was hammering at night without bright lights and the lack of both safety equipment and medical care. We only had a small LED light between three people, which was only bright enough to light the head of the cheese being strapped. That was very dangerous. We had no helmet and safety boots. The only safety clothes we had were normal mittens. Consequently, I sometimes accidentally hit the hands of my fellow soldiers. My hands were likewise hit by others. You might assume that we are afraid to get hurt, but a lot of us actually hope to get injured. Can anyone guess why? This is also quiz. So no one. Okay. They thought they could get lighter duties like sentry duty instead of the exhausting and dangerous work we had to do. I was once given sentry duty for 2 weeks because I got sick and because I also bribed the senior officer with expensive cigarette. The expensive cigarette is almost currency in North Korea. After about 2 weeks, I returned to the task of the breaking of the bridges. I hammered all day and every day. Not surprisingly, I got sick again. This time I had a boil on my buttocks, so I couldn't work very well. However, my supervising officer didn't think I was sick enough to be given other duties. I could still hammer, so I had to keep hammering. Around 2 weeks later, my boil was so painful. I finally was allowed to visit the temporary military medical care center. At the center, there were some young beautiful nurses. You might think I was embarrassed to show my buttocks, but I was too much painful to care. Why didn't come here earlier? One nurse asked, but I couldn't answer because I was hard to explain that I wasn't allowed to go earlier. After medical treatment, I worked again. I had no choice. Imagine how hard it was to work under such conditions. 6 weeks later, I witnessed a tragic accident. We had just started working one morning when suddenly I heard screaming. Around 20 soldiers were trapped under huge beams. We rushed to reach them. We all tried to lift it, but it was too heavy. We didn't have an emergency number to call like 911, and we didn't even have cell phones. We had to help them ourselves. Everyone was either screaming and in pain or shouting. It was like a scene from a horror movie. They were craning, but it was not working. An hour later, another crane arrived, and finally the beam was lifted. But it was too late for some of them. Because the accident site was near the Pyongyang-Wonsan highway, and because there were no ambulance, we had blocked the highway so we could take the injured soldiers to hospital. We took them in a car, vans, and even trucks. The situation was like a battlefield. I still remember it was yesterday. I later heard that 3 of them had died. Several had lost their legs, and others had suffered other serious injuries. They did not receive any compensation from the regime. The accident was eventually forgotten, and we stopped talking about it. Such conditions are common on army construction sites in North Korea. I was experienced beating and verbal harassment as a result of the stressful life in the military. When we worked at the construction site, our supervisor often beat us. Since 10 years military service resulted in a huge amount of stress, many soldiers turned to aggressive behavior and violence to vent their frustration on those under their command. As such, physical abuse, psychological abuse, and verbal abuse were commonplace. Many soldiers died during their mandatory military service due to various accidents, malnutrition, lack of medical care, and even sometimes killed by their fellow soldiers who were perhaps mentally ill from the stress of the military life. The main reason that I want to share my story is to increase awareness of a real situation North Korean soldiers face instead of how they are shown in the media like robotic soldiers marching in the emotionless unison and the media's focus on nuclear weapons. North Korean soldiers are not just machine soldiers. They have all mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters. They are all victims of the regime. They are not enemy, I think. They also need and probably want your help. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you so much. And now we'll hear from Yuna.
Hi everybody, my name is Yuna. I'm sad after his speech. I was born in Gangwon province near to Pyongyang city, and I didn't have any this tragic experiences in North Korea. I was born in a military family. My father was like ski force general, so I believe my family was quite wealthy family. So I went to some kind of like prestigious university in North Korea, which is Kim Jong-suk University. So as you know, Kim Jong-suk was the Kim Il-sung's wife. So the university named because of her, because the university is located in Haeryong City near to China. So there was like a Truman River just front of the university. So I could see Chinese side. Even the North Korea was dark, but the Chinese side, the China side was always bright and electricity 24/7. So before I went to university, I was always in Jagang province. I was very loyal and obedient to the government. I didn't know the government was not quite right. I thought that was the normal government, and I only had to follow their rules. So I didn't watch any South Korean movies or dramas in Jagang province. But since I went to university, some of my best friends, they actually introduced me some South Korean dramas. Finally, I opened my eyes. Finally, I could know what was the freedom and what was the human rights. So when I was in North Korea, I didn't even know the human rights word exists in the world. So we didn't really use that word. So I didn't know human right. But when I watched the South Korean dramas, I saw that South Korean people looked very, like they had a freedom and they could go anywhere they wanted to go, and their clothes and whatever they were eating, it was quite new and it was surprised. So I think that was the reason I actually against to government, and I finally knew that North Korean regime was not quite right for North Korean people. So when I was in second year of university, I decided to cross the river without telling my parents. I knew that my father was general, and I knew that the government will catch him and do something to my parents, but it couldn't stop because I really wanted to see outside of North Korea. I wanted to see the world. So I can say that I abandoned my parents and my brother, whole my family, and then I crossed the river, and then I just decided to come to South Korea. So I crossed the river in 2nd of March, and then I arrived in South Korea July 13th. So it was quite fast a journey to compare others. So I can say that I was lucky to come to South Korea faster than anybody else. So yeah, that was my story. So as Case mentioned, our talk show, I actually learned a lot of things from that show because I didn't really know that what was the North Korea, like a real North Korea. As Ken said, a lot of like tragedies and bad happens, but I didn't really have a chance to see it. So I'm learning still.